Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Hey guys, welcome back to Java Chat. It's Coffee with Mike, and I'm getting another amazing guest here by the name of Padma Gordon joining us today. Padma, thanks for coming and having a Java Chat.
I'm so happy to be here with you today.
That's sweet. Hey, so our format's pretty simple. We basically ask our guests to introduce themselves, and talk a little bit about themselves, and feel free to have some fun talking about themselves and their passions of sorts. The first section is usually about who you are and where you're from. So give us some history on who Padma Gordon is and what you do.
Okay, sure. Well, if you want a little history, I'm actually from the East Coast.
I do.
Okay, great. Well, I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in and around New York, and which you might hear a little New York in my voice. And I presently, and for the last, say, 20 years, have been living in Northern California in the Bay Area.
Nice.
Yeah, gorgeous. It's gorgeous here today.
Love the Bay Area, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot to love.
Yes,
Sure.
absolutely.
Especially on days like today.
Yeah.
My partner went out surfing.
Oh, jelly,
Yeah.
major jelly.
Major, yeah. Wetsuits are us.
All day.
All day. So what do I want to tell you about myself historically? Well, I'll tell you present day. I have a teenager, and I'm a spiritual counselor, and I lead meditations, mindfulness meditations for people around the world, actually
Cool.
live through Insight Timer, and I have a whole slew of meditations up there. I have written a book called Being Together, so I'm an author. Being Together, Practical Wisdom for Loving Yourself and Your Partner.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's really about relationships, and
Absolutely.
the primary relationship, is with yourself. So what is it? So to talk about me a little personally, how do I cultivate self-love? How do I cultivate self-love? Well, meditation, spending time outside, dancing. I love to dance. In my younger years, even though I don't feel like I'm old at all, in my younger years,
I was going to say, you're 22? Come on.
Yeah, and then some. But when my late 20s, early 30s, I had an African-inspired dance company.
Nice.
And so I have done a ton. One of my passions is dancing and teaching. And really, why do I do my work in the world? I do my work in the world because I want to be of service. I want my life to be well used. And luckily, there are so many moments and so many days where I say, wow, that was a really good use of me. So
that's absolutely cool. You said you came from the East Coast. What part?
New York.
What part of New York?
Really Long Island, Staten Island, Queens.
Long Island.
Long Island.
Yeah,
Way back.
I got a lot of friends from back east, if you will. A couple of friends from the Bronx, a couple of friends from Queens.
Nice.
It's an interesting culture shift, isn't it? Moving from that to San Fran.
Yeah, it is. It is different. And I have to say that a lot of my close friends are actually from the East Coast. I do have dear friends who are California natives.
Sure.
And I have a lot of friends who are really just East Coast transplants. The Bay Area is full of them.
Oh, sure. Yeah, trust me, we got plenty out here. I'm in Vegas, so we have plenty of East Coast transplants out here. We've actually been getting a migration of Illinoisans coming. I just happen. You know that whole thing about when you tell your mind to look for something and all of a sudden it starts finding it?
Yes.
For some reason, Illinois is what I'm finding the most of right now. And I don't remember talking to anybody about it, but it is what it is. So we take it. So you said you're a spiritual counselor. What is that? And how'd you get into that?
Well, what does a spiritual counselor do? Spiritual counselor / relationship counselor.
Okay.
A lot of relationship counseling. Spiritual counselor, my role is to assist you in really coming home to your heart Being
Okay.
able to rest in yourself, rest in your heart, be in your body, feel at ease in your own skin, and then tend to the things that might be keeping you a little outside yourself or might feel like obstacles to really being yourself. I'm very committed to being and being present and also to be effective in the world and to be happy in the world. You need to be able to be at ease in yourself and feel good about yourself and love
So,
yourself.
so what would be some of the blatant flags that would be missed by normal, everyday people that would tell you that that needs to happen? Like, what are the
Um,
symptoms
the symptoms
of
are
not
you're giving
doing
yourself,
it?
yeah, you're giving yourself a really hard time. Your inner critic is running wild.
Mm-hmm.
You're believing your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and not stopping long enough to check it out, because that's the whole thing with meditation, brings you into the present, and in the present you can check something out. You can
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself, is this true or is this not true? On the one hand,
Yeah.
if you're trying to escape, if you're using all different ways that you might to escape, you know, overindulging in
Mm-hmm.
anything you could overindulge in,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's a sign that something is amiss.
Mm-hmm.
If you always, and I use that word intentionally, if you just about always put yourself second and
Yeah.
you're taking care of
Yep.
everyone else,
Yep.
it's good to take a look and say, hey, what about me? I matter too. Especially if you're the head of a household, you're a parent, you're the head of a business, whatever it is, you need to really take care of yourself. So
You know,
those would be some of the obvious
that's funny
flags.
that you mentioned those particular kinds of people, because most people would immediately run to the younger generations that are having their issues right now and not realizing that the three types of people, and there are plenty more just like them: the head of house, I forgot the third, the business leader.
If you're the head of a household or a business owner or a
So yeah,
parent.
the parent would be they're probably the ones that are the least aware
Mm-hmm,
of these flags
mm-hmm.
because they're so busy being in the midst of dealing with stuff that there's no time to think about those things in their mind. And you're right. I just had a guest on by the name of Pete Bombachi, who's got the Genwell organization. It's a organization that talks about human connection. And one of the things we talked about is what goes on in your own mind and where your mind loves to run.
Yes.
And if you pay too much attention and overthink, which everybody loves to do, it's so funny. I see so many people out there. If you're an overthinker like me, it's like, why do you say it like that?
Uh-huh.
I mean, why are you giving it premise and honor?
Exactly.
I mean,
You're empowering it.
you're empowering the very thing that's disempowering you.
Yes, that is the home of self-sabotage.
Yeah,
These are
because
all
it's
different sort of ways that we sabotage ourselves.
mm-hmm.
We think we identify with, oh, I'm really not good at that. Or then there's the shoulds. I should be doing that, which
you
you
never
can
should yourself.
never should yourself. I'm right with you. That's a huge red flag, to just pause and say, what am I doing? And
Yeah.
the other thing is, if you're someone who if you have a goal or you have an intention for
Mm-hmm.
yourself or your
Mm-hmm.
life,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing things that are not leading you there, it's kind of like you plug in the GPS. You say, I'm going to go visit you, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Vegas. I plug in my GPS and I start heading that way. But instead, I just turn in other directions. I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to be able to have lunch with you.
No,
So
there's no GPS at that point. It's just it's which way is the wind blowing today?
exactly. And you're just getting carried away by your thoughts. So checking and saying, if you're someone who doesn't really have the habit or the practice of checking, oh, I said I want this. I said I want, for instance, a really fun, loving, happy relationship.
Right.
That's the goal.
That's the
So
goal.
is what I'm doing lining up with it? If I'm giving my partner grief, that is not lined up with the goal. If he's just disappearing, for hours and hours without letting me know what he's doing, That's also not lined up with the goal and our agreements.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people forget you have to make your agreements.
Mm-hmm.
I see too many people getting into relationships. Oh, we get along. Oh, it's cool. Oh, we're just hanging out. No, that's going to be a very short-term, short-lived deal, because
Absolutely.
neither one of you really has given permission to the other for anything, honestly, other than to hang out.
Mm-hmm. Right. You haven't given permission and you haven't shown up and made a commitment. Because an agreement is kind of like
Both.
an incremental
Yep.
commitment. We make
Yep.
an agreement, say in the beginning, you make an agreement, you say, okay, we're exclusive.
Yeah.
Let's be exclusive. We're not going to, in the beginning, you're dating, and then you
Yep.
say, oh, now we're exclusive. Okay, what does exclusive mean to you?
Yeah.
And you really outline that. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
Yep.
And then you honor that. You honor that and you communicate with your partner. And this also translates to business too. You make agreements at work. We're going to treat each other in a certain way. You make agreements in your home, with your family, with your kids, with your dog. You make an agreement that you're going to feed the dog, you're going to treat the dog kindly.
Yep.
You're not going to abuse the dog or
Exactly.
anything.
And that also goes along with setting expectations, which is also both business and it's almost the same. It's almost saying the same thing, just in different parts of life. But the idea is that if you're not making agreements, you're really not setting up for your success as much as your relationship success. Because at the end of it, you're the one that's going to get hurt, and then you're the one that's going to end up running down the road that your mind loves to run down. Because we used to call them thought attacks.
Yeah.
You know, when you sit there and you go, gee, wouldn't that be horrible if, and you shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
but looks like a cool road to drive down with the Lamborghini. Let's go have some fun.
Right. And you just go tearing down the road.
Yeah. And then you get to the bottom and you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. What is this? Oh, this is terrible. How do I get out of here?
How do I get out of here? And how did I get here?
Yeah.
I'm really interested in how did I get here? Because at any point along the road, you can press the brake, to stay with our metaphor here.
It's interestingly enough,
press the brake.
Not
and
only
pause.
press the brake, there's a ton of signs on the way down that road that say, turn back, do not pass, slow down, stop. You know,
Yep.
it's
That's
your
right.
it's you that has to, one, recognize the signs, two, take the damn left turn and get off the damn road.
Yes.
You know, and start looking for
That's right.
something better. I mean, there are footpaths that are more beautiful than the best well-laid roads in this world.
Yeah.
Same thing happens in your head.
Really true. That's really true. And that's where presence comes in. You're talking about being able to be present, pay attention, and then course correct.
Yes.
Okay, make a U-turn, go back that way, because where you're going is not leading you to your destination. It's leading you to a destination that you're going to be unhappy that you have arrived at.
So if you're running down that road, and you've gotten smart enough to figure out that you're running down that road, because it does take a bit of practice to finally recognize, oh yeah, this isn't the right street. If you realize that road, how do you get back to self-love in a way that you can stop and go, like you said, pump the brakes and really just take it in for a second and say, okay, yeah, this isn't working. What do I do now?
It's a great question. I mean, I feel like the first thing, as you said, is recognize what you're doing and then pause and feel your feelings. Let yourself settle down. Try your best not to move in a reactive way. That really also doesn't serve you.
No, it doesn't.
It really doesn't. And then you can ask yourself, slow down and say, is this job, is this relationship, is it evolving me? Because for me, relationships are best case scenario. They evolve us into, the optimal version of ourselves.
Yep.
And so
Agreed.
am I evolving? Am I showing up? Is this bringing out the good parts of me? And am I able to tend to the parts that are still kind of rough around the edges?
Yeah.
I'm reactive. I'm a little sharp at times, or maybe you're someone who just hides out in the corner and doesn't share yourself. If you're
Guilty.
a little bit of a withholder,
Guilty.
there's all right. So these are just different ways of being, the different styles, different sort of emotional relating styles or attachment styles. And so it's to really come clean with yourself and tell the truth and say, am I up for this? Because you want to be able to be all in. You want to be able to be all in a way that is nourishing for you. You really want to feel, is this feeding me? Am I growing? And P.S., growth doesn't always feel good. It doesn't have to hurt, and it might stretch you. Very likely, it will stretch you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So do you have because I already know how some of my listeners think. Well, that's
Good.
great. Settle down. How
do you settle down?
What's a tip or a trick that could possibly help somebody do that? Because everything else after, I swear, once you've settled down, things become so much clearer. But it's that one part that's the beast for anybody is, well, how do I stop the noise?
Yeah. Well, one thing is, and this is free too. Breathing. You can slow down.
Wait. Say that again.
Breathing is
good
free.
Lord, you said you and it's free?
It's free. And
no one
it's
charges
happening
for this.
all the time.
No one charges
as long as you're alive. I promise no one's going to charge you.
I can go outside and do this now.
That's right. You can go outside. You can sit right there. We can take a deep breath together, right? We're like, let's breathe, because breathing slows everything down, and you can follow your breath out of your head. So this is the trajectory.
Okay.
Out of your head and into your body. And inside of your body is your heart.
Yeah.
And you come down out of your head, into your heart, into your body. And the body doesn't lie. The mind is coyote.
Yes, it
is. The mind is a trickster extraordinaire.
Yep.
But the body is like, okay, yeah, I like this. This feels good, even if I'm a little scared. Scared doesn't necessarily mean stay outside, make a detour.
Right.
So I would say definitely breathing. I would say I'm very somatically body oriented myself. And so I would say just stop, shake your body out. Just really, it's quite, sometimes we call it a system interrupt.
Yeah.
You just want to interrupt which way your mind is going, which way your body is going, because you might be, because it can happen so fast, and you've done it 1,000, 10,000, more than 10,000 times. So you really have to say, oh, here it is again. Here it is again. And you recognize the architecture of the habit pattern, the architecture of the reaction, and you feel it. And normally when you're in reaction, your body is going to clench and contract and get hot and get uncomfortable. So if that's happening, stop. Settling down means feel the clenching. Stop. Oh, I'm clenching.
Yeah.
Let me just take some breaths. Let me feel the clenching. Doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means I'm about to go somewhere that I don't want to go.
You reminded me of I can't remember his name. He is a doctor, and he talks about the second brain, which is basically our gut. And the connection between our actual mind and our gut, and which one is more of a truth teller than the other. And that if we're listening properly, which you just laid out, if we're listening properly, that second brain will tell us exactly whether, there's some nervous times, but it'll also tell us when we really need to be in defense and when it's just a farce.
That's right.
It weird enough, our gut's smarter than our brain is, as far as that stuff is concerned. We can be intellectually sound, but when it comes to figuring out, we'll overthink it. If we listen to our gut, we'll know what's real and what's not, for the most part, I think.
Yeah, that's well put.
Yeah.
And overthinking is very tiring. You can't.
I know this firsthand.
Figure out your life. You can't figure it out. You can use your intelligence, your intellect, in a really focused way. And if you're striving and you're grasping at straws and you're in a cycle of, I don't know, well, should I, shouldn't I? Is this right? Is this wrong? That's called doubt. If you're in doubt, that's also a great time to just pause.
I think a lot of people, it would serve a lot of people, especially today, to do that. Because honestly, I think there are a lot of people that are not being honest with themselves, with what's really going on in themselves. because they've become so externally focused that everything that they pursue is not necessarily an altruistic. They think it is, but for some strange reason, and I'm talking about the condition of the world, not just like we live in the U.S. We're already having our own issues, but the condition of the world in general. While people want to be altruistic about things, I think they're missing certain things. At least this is what I'm seeing. And I think, in fact, we're going to take a short break, and I want to come back and talk about that. Usually we talk about inspiration, motivation, but there's some other stuff like practice of presence, mindfulness, and stuff I want to get into with you. So we'll take a short 30-second break, you guys. We'll be right back, and we're gonna go dig a little deeper with Padma. And we're back here at Java Chat, Coffee with Mike, sitting here with Padma Gordon, talking about some pretty powerful stuff here. We've been discussing about getting inside, calming down, settling down, as you put it, and really focusing on self, and which leads to the next part of it, which is becoming present. And I think a lot of people miss what being present and practicing mindfulness is. And I've had a couple of other guests that have explained it as well. So I definitely want your perspective and your line of thought as to how that works and how it should work. Because once you have settled down, that doesn't necessarily mean you've become present. You just settled down. You still have to go through the rest of the process. So how does that look from a standpoint of, all right, I'm settled down. Now what?
Well, I settled down, and now I turn my attention toward myself. I stop asking all the questions and wondering about you and why you did this and how come it was like that. I turn my attention toward myself. And for me, one of the best ways of becoming really present is to actually turn toward the physical experience that's occurring in this moment. For instance, and this is a really incredible tool, so simple, also free.
What is it with your free giveaways, man? How do you make a living? Goodness.
Well, you need to practice and maybe some coaching on how to do this.
That's now I see. Okay,
and then accountability.
That too. I got you. All right.
Yep. And structures and practices. Well, one practice that you can do is just notice, say I just turn toward my hand and I notice, my fingers are cold. And I just sit with that. Okay, my fingers are cold. That is happening in the present moment. I'm not thinking about why are they cold and how can I warm them up and do I need, another
that was the
cup
first thought that came into my hands. You should probably put something on them and get them warmed up. I missed it.
Yeah, because the mind wants to immediately solve the problem. Just solve the problem. But there's something to simply noticing it before. Notice it before you take an action. You have to learn to sit with what is occurring. That is the key to creating flow, creating harmony, to tapping into your inner genius. Also, if you have an idea right away, well, you should do this, you're going to miss what comes in the empty space. What comes in the empty space is intelligence, deep intelligence that just sort of like sifts down from the quantum and okay, this is what's needed. And it may be, okay, go warm them up, go do this. Or it may be, actually, it's okay to sit with fingers that are a little cold. And that's the same way that you then learn to sit with someone saying something. You don't like it. And you're able to just sit and listen and receive. Listen, receive what's being said. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or disagree with it. You might have the perfect solution. You might have the perfect fix. And if you just interject it, cut them off, whether it's in a personal situation or a work situation, they're not going to even listen to you.
Yeah.
So presence has everything to do with sitting with yourself, inside yourself, and then waiting, because you will recognize the right timing. You'll say, now there's an opening. But first you have to sit and receive yourself. And when you can do this inside yourself, then you can also do it with somebody else. They're coming at you with whatever, and you can just sit and listen. I practice this with my teenage daughter.
Oh, yeah. I do it with my boy too.
Yeah. Sometimes successfully, not always, but
Oh,
sometimes.
I didn't say I was a pro at it. I just I do it with my son too. I
Yeah.
have tried in some cases to explain to him why it is that sometimes I won't answer,
Mm.
or that I won't commit to certain things. Like
Hmm.
when we were younger, he'd be like, "Can we go do this?" I'd be like, "We'll see." And he finally asked one day, he says, "Why do you keep saying we'll see?" I said, "Because if I make a promise to you that I can't keep, I've broken my word. I'm not going to do
Hmm.
that to you."
Hmm. Yeah, that's
I said,
awesome.
do you understand that?" He goes, "Yeah." I said,
Hmm.
"I know that doesn't sound the greatest, and I know that's not exactly something you'd like to hear, but it's what I have to work with considering everything that's going on around us."
Absolutely. I do the same thing, you know.
It's just being honest with them.
It's being honest and it's knowing that I want to keep my word. And also I will assess when on Saturday when you want to go do this, is that actually the right thing to do today? Is that
Yeah,
what's needed?
yeah.
So we're teaching our kids that. And the other thing I want to say about presence is it takes you're coming out of your thoughts, you're sifting down to listen at a very deep level to your intuition, to those whispers of the universe that
Mm-hmm.
can come
Mm-hmm.
out, or those that solution that you couldn't have figured out will actually come in its own time if you wait, if you get present, if you set it on the shelf. Perseverating on things is unadvisable.
Mm. Do you remember the first time that that actually worked for you?
No, that's a great question.
Because I'm sitting
First
here thinking,
time.
because I'm sure both of us have done it by now a
Yes.
few times,
Yes.
but the first time,
The very first.
I'm always interested to know what was the first time like, because
Mm.
it's nothing that you experienced before.
Hmm.
So,
You know, the first time in chronology, I don't actually really know. And
mm.
what I can say, and I'm not trying to squirm away from the
No,
question
no. Not everybody
in the
remembers.
least.
I don't. I just
No,
remember what we do now. It's like,
exactly. And I want to say that when you come into the present moment,
mm,
that is the first time that you have ever responded in this way, in this moment, to this
I
person.
like that.
And you can slow down,
I
because
like that.
thank you, if you're in the future, you know, you're just
Yeah.
projecting. If you're in the past, you're hauling yesterday's news into the room. And in the present, you are actually experiencing this for the very first time, which is a great thing to do with, you know, a partner, husband, wife, child, business associate,
Absolutely.
because then you'll see them freshly.
Mm-hmm.
That's the possibility. I look across and I don't bring in, oh yeah, you're not very good at that, and maybe you're going to say this, and you don't, you know, all these judgments and whatever. Instead, I see you and I say, oh, who are you today?
Yeah.
Who are you today? And I actually make room for that. And if you're not present and you're projecting yesterday's baggage into now, you're missing it.
So when we've I used to work in not venture capital but angel investment capital, as a investment manager. I was the guy that went out and looked for deals for the crew, for the group. And one of the people that we worked with, they had their challenges. And I remember one day just coming in and going, you know what, I'm not gonna come in with any bias. I'm just gonna go in. There's stuff to do. There's work to be done. Blah blah blah. I'm just gonna come in and let's see what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
something had changed, and I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but something had changed. And I came in and I gave them, you know, a good greeting with no nothing behind it, so to speak. Because you know,
Mm-hmm.
when you have those biases, you walk in, your greetings have power behind them. People can feel it.
Absolutely.
So that day I came in without that and said, let's see what happens.
Mm.
And continued that over the course of a few weeks. This person completely switched. Like
That's
whatever
how it
they were doing
works.
whatever they were doing to sabotage themselves before, they stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed it and I pulled him aside. I said, hey, what's going on? This is what do you mean? This is last few weeks you've been on fire. What are you doing? What did you just find a new supplement or something? You taking pre-workout before you get here? What's the deal?
Uh-huh.
And they looked, they go, no, I just wanna do okay. I just want to do well. I was like,
Mm.
that's all?
Mm.
Shh, let me let you get back to
Amazing.
work. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's such a good example of how you shifted. You shifted You were in the present. You were actually open to them. You weren't sitting. You weren't bringing your biases to the table.
Oh, and I had some.
And
Trust me, I had to catch myself with that one.
we all
I
have
had
them.
some.
We
Yeah, I had
all
some.
have them. And
Yeah.
it really takes some discipline, because the other side and thing that happens when you're present is you have the ability to not say something and to not bring your garbage, your trash,
You remove
your
you remove the
filters.
toll booth on the highway.
Mm,
I was just thinking about this, like you, because that takes a toll on people.
it does. Such a toll.
So you remove that toll, and all of a sudden it becomes a freeway, not a highway, not a tollway.
Nice. That's right.
I'm writing that one down. Wait a second. No, but
That's
I mean, it makes
good.
sense though, right? I mean, if you are practicing presence as you're describing, there are no tolls. There's nothing to pay. There's nothing to prove.
Mhm,
Really. I mean,
mhm,
you're not you've nothing to prove to them. They have nothing to prove to you.
mhm,
There's just things that need to be done. And at a point of being present, I have two people looking for that connection to quantum, to
mhm,
source, whatever it is.
mhm,
And I would think that it'd probably be a little more, it'd be a little easier for others around that
mhm,
to start feeling a little more open to sharing creative ideas. Hey, what about this? What do you think about
mhm.
this?
That's
Um,
right. Totally.
Whether it's good or not is irrelevant.
Mhm. But you've created, by being present, you've made room, because there's room inside of you. They're actually reacting to or responding to, oh, there's space for me to bring my voice in. There's
Hmm.
space for me to
Hmm.
show up as myself. I was just working with somebody yesterday about standing in his value. Just like you, by when you're present, you're standing in your value. Also, you're open. You're wide open, and all of your intelligences
Hmm.
are on board.
Hmm.
Your mind, your gut,
Yep.
your heart. It's
Yep.
all there, and all your experience that you bring to the table in a particular arena. It's all there.
Yep.
It just can come through. I like that analogy of the tolls. It's like the tolls are your mind's objections and your projections and your stories and all that stuff.
And all the pre-programming crap that you've had on all your life, all that stuff.
Exactly. And it takes practice. I just want to say the pre-programming crap
Hmm.
or stuff that you've
Hmm.
had your whole life,
Hmm.
it's going to come. And you just have to notice, oh, that's what that is. And I am not enslaved to that. I don't
That
have to follow that.
that brings up a good question, because that just triggered, and that's actually one of your questions. When people are in that mode, they're stuck.
That's right.
How do you get unstuck? I
Mm.
mean, I know you've been talking about being present and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
what's a way to just like, I'm in this spot, I have this pre-programming. How do I break this shit?
Well, how you break up your programming is by noticing that you're programmed. You got to first realize, oh, this is a program. You have to decide. Well, first of all, you have to realize that actually you're probably unhappy.
Nah, yeah,
Because if you're in your programs,
best. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Yep.
if you're in your
Yep.
programs, you're like, I'm not totally happy.
Yeah.
I must, and then you can have the thought, oh, I'm in my programming. I'm in my conditioning.
Mm,
And it's actually, I'm not free
yeah.
here. I'm not
Yeah.
free to respond. I'm not free to like be my whole self, because I think I should be this part and I should be this way and I should sound like this. And that's all just, programming.
Right.
So first you have to realize that you want something else. And
Right.
then you have to know, what is it? This is one of my favorite questions. What is it that you really want? What is it that you really want? That's the foundational question that will lead you to happiness. And then I would say, enlist help. If you want to get momentum on something, get a coach, get a therapist, join a group, whatever it is that will work for you. But really, if you want to get momentum, get support.
I think that's just probably so many people misunderstand, and I think it's because some of the unfortunate charlatans that have played in the coaching realm, they misunderstand what the value of a coach or a therapist or a group really can provide, providing they have the right structure set up,
Mm-hmm.
and the right practices. Um, what would you say are like some of the more practical structures that somebody can actually set up to get them aligned with their life path, what they're doing, and how that plays?
Well, what are the practical structures? I'm a big fan of goals
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So first, be really clear. What are your goals? What are the intentions?
That goes back to your
And
what do you want? What do you really
right,
want?
what do you want? And
Yeah.
then write them down.
Okay.
Really write them down.
Okay.
Stick them. I mean, you might have heard this before. Stick them on your wall and read
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
And just really line up. And when I'm saying they're right there,
They're right
awesome.
there.
And mine are right there. So when you read them, actually pause
Mm-hmm.
and feel, oh, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
This is really it. And then
Yeah.
you can take it a step further. I did a meditation on this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And be grateful for it in advance. Be grateful for it in advance. Be grateful for what's happening and be grateful for what you're calling in,
Mm-hmm.
because the body doesn't know the difference. And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you want to really call it in by feeling it. Your body is like, oh, I have this new XYZ. Oh, fabulous. I'm
Exactly.
loving this. Oh, it's
Yep.
so comfortable. You want a car, say whatever. Oh, I love the feeling of this Lamborghini, to go
Right.
back to a few moments
Let's
ago.
be clear. I don't want a Lamborghini. I just I think I could
Neither
care
do
less.
I,
I could care less.
actually.
I just
Where would you drive a Lamborghini anyway?
look. I'll take a skateboard down Venice Beach any day. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I'm not that gal. So I would get really clear. I would line up with your intentions. I would practice gratitude. And I'll say it. I would really, if you want to get your life on track, you want to know, you want to really feed self-love.
Mm.
Self-love, which is different from self-indulgence.
Right.
Self-love. What are the loving things? And practice what it is you want. And also, fake it till you make it. Because if you practice something enough times, even though you're stretching to be in your authenticity, it's not quite authentic. It's like, I really want to be this way, but I'm not really there.
Mhm.
Eventually, you become that
Mhm.
because you've practiced it so many times. What you practice becomes your default, becomes who you are.
Yep.
So practice living as who you want to be. Practice being the person at work, in your family that you want to be. Really practice it intentionally, consciously, daily.
Yep. That makes absolute sense. That's pretty cool. Guys, we're going to take one more 30-second break, and we'll come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's next. What else is Padma doing and what she might be doing next, because we all heard she wrote a book, so maybe there's another one in the works. Back in 30 seconds. And we're back. Java Chat, sitting here with Padma Gordon, talking about the practice of presence. I think you used a term called embodied presence. Is there something different about that, or is it just an enhancement to the actual what we've been talking about this whole time?
I think it's an enhancement or a variation. I mean, really, embodied presence means I'm here, I'm noticing myself, I'm noticing my thoughts, I'm not following them.
Yes.
I'm noticing my sensations, and
Mhm.
I'm really here. Because it's so nourishing. I mean, really, what we want as human beings is to be seen and heard.
Yes.
And the only way to feel heard is if the other person is present. They're not diddling on their phone. They're not doing 5 million other things.
Okay, that's a whole nother podcast. Let's not go down that road.
It's true. They're not being distracted in any way that they might be distracted. They
Exactly.
actually just say, oh, I'm right here, which is what I offer with my clients. That's one of my offerings.
That's
I
a
am
beautiful offering.
Thank you. Yeah, practice being present and be around the other people who are present, because it will draw it out of you.
From your perspective, being that, what do you see in other people when they finally figure out that that's what's going on? Their reaction, because I know everybody's different, but I mean the general reaction to somebody actually seeing someone else really being that embodied presence. What do you see?
Oh, I can see so many things.
I know. I'm excited.
I
want to
really,
hear.
sometimes people are moved to tears,
Mhm.
like tears of joy.
Oh, sure.
It's kind of a sense of relief
Uh-huh.
at, someone's here.
Yeah.
It conveys a feeling of deep acceptance when someone is really present with us. Oh, I'm accepted. And then all those parts that have been hiding out and feeling not good enough, and where the inner critic has been, flagellating, they're welcomed. It actually invites an experience of wholeness.
So I'm not, I gotta just give major props to that whole thing that is flagellating. I'm just like, yep, that's exactly what it does.
Yeah, it's painful.
It's
painful. We're like shredding ourselves, and then worst case scenario, each other too.
Yeah.
So in presence, there's room. There's room, and we're not taking things personally. And so somebody can say whatever they're going to say because they recognize that if, say, I'm sitting with them, and it really presence. This is open-hearted, loving presence, non-judgmental.
Yeah.
It's not about me.
Exactly.
I'm not tripping on it. And so then you, as the person across from me, can just be yourself. It gives permission. Like we give ourselves permission to be ourselves by being ourselves in a relaxed, open-hearted way, which means I have to stop and slow way down in our busy, busy world. I have to slow way down.
This question is going to relate more to the entrepreneurs that have businesses or the business owners, because in solid personal relationships, that's amazing. In the business world, that can become dangerous. How does one affect the same situation or the same outcome without overshooting on the personal side of things? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because there's a level of business relationship that no leader can really cross, because then it becomes too personal, and there is a lack of respect at that point for leaders versus subordinates. How does one transcend that? Still be present, still be there, without it becoming too much?
Well, I think that in being present, then we are in rapport.
Yeah.
And then we know what to say and what not to say. And also, as a leader, say, if you're head of your company, you want to, being present is also a way of showing respect. And you want to create, I'm imagining, to be successful, you create a culture of mutual respect. I mean, people, when they feel respected, when they feel appreciated, when they are encouraged, they will perform better. You want to have a successful business, show up and really notice what's going on. Notice what your employees need and want. Notice where they're slacking and what's, how to bring them back on task.
Right.
So I think that in presence works. I mean, presence works, period.
Yeah, it does.
And you'll be able to know, you can, because then you can feel it. Because if you're present, you can actually sense, I'm on the edge here. I'm about to say something, do something that's gonna actually create an imbalance, create a warble in our professional relationship, in our I'm your boss, you're my subordinate dynamic. And inside of that, there's still respect. There's respect, there's listening. I mean, I just have to say that I know people that are working in corporate situations. It's not always possible to have an honest conversation. Sometimes really important conversations happen over the chat, which to me is unbelievable that you would miss a moment. It happened yesterday to someone I know. It's unbelievable. It's so unsatisfying.
It's
so make
totally,
the time to actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
Set a time limit, because I know you're busy. But make the time to have a face-to-face conversation, or at least a voice-to-voice conversation.
That was one of, so I teach business etiquette quietly, which discusses this very thing. It's like techno etiquette is technology supports business relationships. It does not drive them. You drive them.
I like that.
And if you can't make the time to stand up and walk your butt from your desk to wherever you need to get to that person to have that conversation, just because you think it's going to be a hard conversation, you've completely destroyed the relationship. It's no longer present. You're out of alignment both with yourself and with the person that you're trying to make things work with.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds extreme, but if you think about it, it's absolutely true, because text is cold.
Yeah, it's very hard to read
You can't.
the emotions or the nuance
There's
in the
no
text.
context. There's no context
There's
in
no
it.
context. And emails too, even though you
Oh,
can
just
be a
as
little
bad.
more descriptive.
But
Really,
still.
though, you need to hear someone's voice. So at the very least, hop on a phone call, hop on a Zoom call.
Thank
If you
you.
can see them face to face, even better.
Thank
And I want to
you.
say, Mike, if you have to have a hard conversation with somebody, that is even more important, to have a hard conversation with someone where you're making a person-to-person connection.
Yep.
And also where you, if you're the one, delivering the bad news, as it were,
Yeah.
that you are really, because presence, inside of being present, you're also regulated. You're calm.
Yep.
You can think.
Yep.
You're not in reaction.
Exactly.
You can hear what they have to say that might be a little difficult for you, but you have room for it.
Yep.
Again, with a boundary, I have, 20 minutes for this conversation. They don't get to go on, and it's not a yelling match, and it's not a blame game.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the other thing is, again, it goes back to that setting expectations thing. Before we have this conversation, I want it clear. This is what I'm after, and I need to know what you are after so that we can try to
Yes.
figure out where our common goal is here.
Mhm.
And again, this is all part of the training that we do. If your intent is to come out to a positive outcome,
Mhm.
then that's what you should be getting, is a positive outcome. If
Yes.
one side is not intending on that, you will not come out with that positive outcome. I don't care how much you're into it. It has to be both sides.
Mhm.
And both sides
I
have to
agree.
be, again, present within themselves as much as they are present for the other person. So, I mean, I'm just going back to that, speaking to everything that we've been talking about this whole time, is
Mhm.
this practice of presence is extremely important, even more so in business, because it's not just the company and the client, it's also the internals workings of the company.
Mhm.
Every soul inside that building or inside that structure, since everybody's virtual now,
Mhm.
is important in some way.
Yes, we are.
And if you give proper respect to that,
Mhm.
you'll not only get it back, but the effectiveness of the organization, like you said, continues growing.
Mhm. That's right. People work really well when they feel respected and happy, and where they're listened to.
Mhm.
And I absolutely agree. If you are wanting, you really want to set your expectation or clarify your outcome. What
Mhm.
do I want out of this conversation? What do
Mhm.
you want out of this
Mhm.
conversation? Great. Now we know. We're
Yeah.
lined up. And yeah, and it's an opportunity to really listen and just I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to slow down, because you're in business, you're successful, your mind works fast. Slow down, pay attention.
Isn't it interesting how fast our minds actually work?
They work really fast.
They work extremely fast. And with the new generations coming out, they're thinking faster than you and I are.
Hmm.
I was just having this discussion with one of our interns, that the new generation Z, you got about 8 seconds to get their attention. With us, you had 15 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
Their filters are so high that if you don't catch them in the first 2 seconds, bye. Good luck.
Incredible. That's incredible.
It's nuts. So you are currently a practicing counselor, correct?
Yes. I'm
And what is?
relationship, individual.
Yep.
I'm also so sorry. You were saying what is next? What am I?
Yeah. What's next?
What's next? Well, I'm riding the wave of my book, Being Together,
Typical
and
surfer.
yeah,
Riding the
and,
wave, man. I
oh
love it.
yeah,
I'm from
yep.
Hawaii, so don't. I'm not bashing on you.
I
I'm just like,
figured
yeah,
the
man.
surf lingo would be resonant.
You know it would be.
Yep. Um, and I am in process. I've gone through the first couple rounds of revisions for the audiobook version. So soon you'll be able
Yay.
to get Being Together on Audible. I would say by the end of the first quarter is my vision.
You'll need to let us know so we can go ahead and promote it on our social. We'd be happy to promote that Audible.
Oh,
And
great.
I can tell you that's probably the one I'm gonna grab because I'm an Audible guy.
Yeah, Audible's great. I
I
hadn't started
know.
listening to so many audiobooks until I was recording my own, because I said I really need to listen and see what I like and see what works. And obviously, well, for me, obviously what works is when people sound natural. They
Yeah.
sound like themselves. They're
Yeah.
not trying too hard. So the audiobook is coming out, and I'm also simultaneously working on a kind of companion workbook that
Nice.
goes along with this. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
All right.
and it'll have all the practices, or not all, but a lot of different practices. It'll have a lot of stuff we've talked about
Good.
will be in there, and is actually in the book in various ways, shapes, and forms.
Okay.
But how to really practice presence. Oh, that's what I was going to say before. I'm going to digress because
Go
I
ahead.
know you like digression, Mike.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah. Oh, so what we've been talking about, being present, first of all, takes a lot of practice.
Yes, it does.
So being present with yourself is
Mhm.
one thing.
Mhm.
Then, and this is something I work with people on
Mhm.
a lot. Being present with yourself, but then staying present with yourself as, and get the as I'm relating to you right now, Mike. I don't leave myself. I don't abandon myself and leave myself in the hallway back there. I'm in myself, and I'm also aware of you and listening to you. And this, my friends who are listening, is a very high level skill.
Yeah.
It is a very high level skill. They do not teach it in school.
No.
This would be a great skill that kids could learn in school, all the way from preschool, kindergarten.
They only recently, it was a feature on a news story. They only recently introduced meditation in one of the elementary grades in one of the inner city schools.
Mm-hmm.
And it completely changed the dynamic of the class.
Totally.
And I don't know why they don't introduce meditation as a part of education, base education, if you will. I get that they have to learn what they need to learn, but they don't learn financial literacy anywhere.
Right. We're going to rewrite the core curriculum.
We
here.
really
financial,
we need to do some stuff.
Mindfulness.
Yep.
Financial literacy.
Yep. Because these are the things that would allow a child to become the well-rounded student that they need to become, and to become a good citizen that can actually contribute to society. Because at that point, you're now talking about mindful people, not just a bunch of mindless people running around being drones, which is exactly what we have a lot of right now. People like you are helping to change that. So thank you for what you're doing.
You're welcome.
And we need about 50,000 more of you. But I think that, by the way, do you have any groups or membership groups where people can come in and do meditations or stuff like that? Do you have that?
Well, I have meditations on Insight Timer, and you can become.
This is an app?
It's an app.
Okay.
Yep. It's a free app, but they have a subscription.
Okay.
I am, considering, I think that's a great idea. I'm working also on an online course that will have it'll have some live elements, and it'll also have recorded segments and practices. Sweet. And it will be a training and implementation. It won't just be a course.
Nice.
It'll be like, if you want to live differently, you can do this.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. So we'll want to know about that too, obviously.
Thank you. Yeah.
And are you on the normal social platforms as well?
I'm on the normal social platforms. Yeah.
So we can find you on FB, Twitter, LinkedIn, that kind of deal. Awesome.
I'm not super active on Twitter, but all the rest of them. I'm there. You can just look me up.
We'll follow
Padma Gordon.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
Absolutely. All guys, you know how this works. All of these links that we're talking about, they'll all be below. When the audio link comes out, we'll help promote it on social. So keep an eye on our Instagram and our Twitter, because that's where we put everything. What would be one solid piece of advice, considering everything that's going on right now? What would be one good solid piece of advice you can offer to any of our listeners that might help them figure out how to deal with all of this storm that's going on?
The single most important thing you can do is spend some time sitting quietly every day. Call it meditation, call it mindfulness, call it prayer, call it whatever you want. Call it looking inside. Spend some time, because in this world right now, things are so topsy-turvy. It's very chaotic, and you want to have a place, a reference point, an internal reference point of steadiness, of trustworthiness, because what's on this news or that news, or who's saying what, it's hard to know what to trust exactly. And what you can trust is you can line up with yourself and then be discerning about whether you do this or do that, or read this or read that, or it's all of that stuff. So cultivate a space of an inner sanctuary, from which all your relationships, all your business decisions, all of your actions can come forth.
So,
Let yourself come from a place of connection and quiet. And if you're skipping this,
yeah,
I don't know how you're navigating right now.
they're not.
It's too much.
Yeah,
It's too much. You're scrambling. Your nervous system is
Yeah.
just getting bombarded by
Yep.
what's going on in the larger world,
Mhm.
media, and also just the field, as it were. So you want to be like, okay, I'm coming back to myself. Yeah, that thing that happened that just crossed my screen, really bizarre, really upsetting.
Yep.
Pandemic goes
Mhm.
on, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Okay, let me come back to myself. Let me
Yep.
come back to myself. So really spend time sitting quietly, even if it's just 5. There's 2 ways you can do it.
Mhm.
5 minutes a day, say
Mhm.
in the morning, and this is minimum. And
Yeah.
you're just starting.
Mhm.
Do 5 minutes a day, sit quietly. You can use the timer on your app. You can go to Insight Timer. There are 75,000 meditations there. I'm there.
Nice.
Find me.
Yep.
Or you can also set an alarm on your phone to go off, say 3 times a day, and then close your eyes. Close your eyes. Do what what Mike and I have been talking about here.
Mhm.
Come back to yourself.
Mhm.
Come home to yourself. Feel your body. You might realize, oh, I haven't drunk any water, coffee all day.
Mhm.
I need some.
Mhm.
Oh, I need to stretch. Okay. Oh, I need to go put my face in the sun.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
cultivate that inner space. It will serve you and guide you home.
Absolutely, I agree
Support you
totally.
living.
It's kind of funny that in the beginning when you started, this is how well this podcast has connected the two of us. You said topsy turvy. That was exactly what I was thinking when you be right, like literally right before you said it. This world is
Nice.
topsy turvy, and you said topsy turvy, and I was like, okay, that's uncanny and wonderful at the same time.
Yeah.
It's when you and guys, this can happen for anybody. This is not. I'm no more in tune with the universe than the next human. I just
Me
happen.
neither.
Yeah, we just happen to notice things, and we happen to notice things at weird times. Some days, and some days we notice them at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But because we make the time
Yes.
to notice, it becomes a little easier.
Yeah.
With all the noise that's been going on and all the people on every corner screaming the world's coming to an end, which they did numerous times all the way back into the 70s and 60s. Those of us that come back to ourselves, we look and we go, there's going to be some changes, but the world's not coming to an end. That's not how that works. We're going to be fine. Everything will be just fine. Nothing's really going to change for those of us that are at work. Nothing's really going to change for any of us that are really doing anything of worth. And here's the thing, you're all worth.
Yeah.
So we're all worth.
Yes.
And as long as you remember that, the world settles down pretty quick. It really does.
It does.
So cool. We had a couple of things that we didn't really get into the relationship things, and I think we should have you come back and talk more about that stuff if you don't mind.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I think relationships are a big deal, especially like right now with the new generations, and I'm sure there are a few people that are trying to navigate some stuff. I can
You think?
tell. Seeing some of the stuff that goes on social media, I'm like, good Lord, how'd you get with that one? And not in a judgmental way of one being bad for the other, but it's like, did neither of you see that this wasn't going to work? How did you not see these things? How did you not see the flags? I mean,
Love is blind.
Yeah, if that's what it was. Anyway, another topic for another time. So guys, remember that all of the links that we've mentioned before, for that she has presently right now available, will be down in the comments section. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. And make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, so every time we bring another awesome guest like this on, it'll tell you right out the gate, hey, there's a new one up on Java Chat. Go check them out. If you're listening on any one of the 13 platforms that we're on podcasts, download it, subscribe, whatever you want to do, but make sure you take 1 or 2 of these with you and listen to it as you're on the road or maybe at work or something like that, wherever you're allowed to listen to it. And this one, I would say, if you can, take it into a quiet place. Take this one into a quiet space to go listen to it for a while, because I can guarantee you, right after we shut off, you're going to hear nothing but silence. And that'd be a perfect time for you to try it.
Yes.
And then if you're listening to us on anchor.fm, of course, that's our home base. We thank you. Any support that you want to show there, every little bit helps, keeps our podcast going and growing. We really appreciate every one of you making time to come and listen to these. I mean, I think we're at about 100 episodes so far. And I keep finding great people like Padma here. And if you know anybody else that you guys think ought to be here, sharing this kind of stuff, sharing these insights and these passions and things, hit us up. Let us know. Tell us in the comments. Send us an email. We'll be happy to reach out to them and hopefully bring them on. We've had amazing guests. I haven't had a single guest where it was like, I haven't had one yet. And I don't think I'm going to have one. Honestly, don't see that happening because we keep getting connected with wonderful people. But take what you've heard and put some practice on it. And just know that both Padma and myself, we want you to have the best. We wish you the best. And it's one of the reasons why we always sign off the way that we do, stay up, stay safe, stay healthy, and live. It's not just a saying. We mean it. So dig into that and go find that space to go be present with yourself. Padma, thank you again so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate your presence and your company and your conversation and your passion. It's been awesome.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Yeah, it was super awesome, super fun, and I appreciate you and this podcast, and may it serve deeply. May people find some happiness.
I think they will. There's a lot of gold in this one, so by all means.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for us. We're going to sign off. Again, we love you. Keep rocking. Keep rolling. I'll say it again. Stay up. Stay safe. Stay healthy. For Padma Gordon and myself, Coffee with Mike. Ciao for now.
Ciao.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Coffee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.